Once that realization hit, given I grew my family background in metallurgy manufacturing, everything from wood, glass, and metal, I grew up with that, and then I worked in an advanced composites lab in US during my undergrad for over 6 years. So all of that experience meant like manufacturing was a very natural space for me to be in, and to think that I can take solutions from a design point of view and scale. Like I realized that that is really where my expertise is.
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Payal, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media. Hi, everyone. Today I am in conversation with the very young and dynamic entrepreneur. Her name is Shreya Rastogi. Shreya is the founder of S R Aerospace, which is a drone parts manufacturing startup. It's based in India, in Bangalore. She is quite dynamic because she also is a licensed private pilot. And I know there are a lot of other credentials to Shreya, but she has done a bachelor's in aerospace and mechanical engineering. So thank you so much for joining me today, Shreya.
Thank you so much for having me, Payal. And so thank you for such a warm welcome. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So can you tell us about your journey into aerospace engineering and how did you actually, what led you to it?
Honestly, it was as simple as I wanted to be the fastest thing on this planet. It literally started from something as simple as that. And for me to work my way to a fighter jet was pretty like synonymous to being the fastest person. But because I'm short, I realized like that is something that is not possible. So I was like, if I can't fly them, I'll make them, and I'll make ones that I can fly them, and then I'll fly those. So I was like, okay, I'm eventually going to build a plane that I will fly. That's how it started, honestly. So a little bit context, like my family background is heavily into business. So none of them, and nobody's ever done engineering. And like growing up, like my grandparents were quite conservative. So for my parents to even have the thought of me, we are from a tier 2 city in India. So for them to even let me go to a boarding school, which I chose, my parents were had a very hard time letting me go. My dad had struggled with it. His only concern as a father is like you're gonna go to boarding school, go to college, gonna get married. I'll probably never have you with me, and it's in your most formative years. I want to be like a part of your day. And for him, I can see how big a compromise it was, but he knew how much I wanted it, and he knew that I saw that there was not much for me to do within the city we were in. So he's, if you're going to do it from the best, like it has to be the best shot you give at life. So I tried and I got through Vellum. Vellum has been quite the journey for me. And it's almost like over 3 lakh, like 9-year-olds compete to get in, and only 50 of them get accepted. That's like a very small percentage of girls. And it's a lot of like competitiveness, and there's a lot of pressure in all of this. But when I made it through, my parents are like, if you make it, so will your siblings. That's the motivation they need. So it was like getting a foot through the door. And once that happened, I like knew that if I put enough hard work and I put my mind to it, I can probably get to wherever I want. And so once I settled on making a plane, my parents, like, I could see my mom's skepticism right off the bat. Like, she didn't shy away from hiding it. She's okay, like, we'll entertain whatever thoughts you have. But my dad, like, how he's always been in my life, he's just like, if you gotta do it, be the best. So go ahead. And then while I was in college, like you said, flying has been a dream of mine. So when I heard about a discovery flight at college, so when I went to University of California, Davis, and there they said that they do discovery flights. I was like, all right, anything that gets me in a plane and at the front seat, I'm all in. So I gave it a shot, and it was love. Like, it genuinely was the first thing I've loved so much in my life. And I think I never looked back after that. It's just been onward and forward. And then as opportunities came my way, it's hard because you're risking it all, and you're like, okay, I'm doing this. So for me, it's not been easy, but I feel like the risk has been worth it all.
Have you collaborated with other organizations? What kind of influences have you seeked, and what kind of impact has that had? That's one. And two, do you think collaborating with companies outside of India, because eventually, I guess, your product, I know that it's very, today, technology in India is like absolutely everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie, right? But are you looking at a global approach as well?
Yes. When we first started, I actually built this entire business model off of my experience from ePlane, where we faced serious issues due to supply chain. There was a lot of dependency, there's a lot of lag, but there was also a stagnancy in innovative growth because people were only using what's available off the shelf. And I have done like a full cycle of aircraft design. And to me, it was very evident that unless a propulsion system is innovated to meet the next generation of aircraft specs, we are still going to be like at a stagnancy stage within the market. And once that realization hit, given I grew my family background in metallurgy manufacturing, everything from wood, glass, and metal, I grew up with that. And then I worked in an advanced composites lab in US during my undergrad for over 6 years. So all of that experience meant like manufacturing was a very natural space for me to be in, and to think that I can take solutions from a design point of view and scale. Like I realized that that is really where my expertise is. And hence, knowing that the technology we built today has got to be scaled in order for the masses to have. It's really easy for people to build prototype because you give it your all. Prototyping is hard, but like cost wise, money wise, the effort and amount of time it takes to produce that one is very different. And especially when you're trying to stage it as a business model that'll generate revenue, it looks very different when you're trying to scale it. So you have an investment in terms of machinery, people, labor, external cost, overhead, and import exports, logistics costs, all of the, and certification. There's a whole bunch of things that are happening. So to me, it's very clear that propulsion as a space was just left alone because the R&D cycle is higher. The amount of capex required to execute it at scale is higher. All of these things meant that these are market entry barriers. And what honestly allowed me to step into this space was just how my background has been. A lot of the machinery that we needed, we didn't have. So we built our own machinery. Like that's genuine, like desperation is key of innovation, I feel. Like we were so desperate. We were like, okay, like we can't find it. We're going to build it. What does it take to build what we need? And we ended up building almost all of our entire machinery. And to me, that spoke about like how much in rhythm my team was in what we are trying to do here, because it's so easy for people to be like, okay, it's not here, let's do this, let's go back to the board. But my team's opinion is not that. They're like, okay, it's not here, how can we make it happen? Like that's the mindset that we work with. So once we were there, it was just about building what we want to build. And once we built it, we realized that the market is so used to using what's been available. To move that needle over to a new and innovative product is really hard, because aerospace industry, the way it's built up, is it's about having a lot of hours worked under you, the product should have built a certain amount of reliability, accountability, traceability. All of these things is what essentially aerospace stands for. And hence, for us to build that sort of repute in the market, we went ahead for a aerospace licensing, like both as a manufacturer and a distribution. And as a business, to me, that made the most sense. It helps my team like streamline the processes they do in a certain way. It assures that there's accountability and traceability at every step of the way. But also, it makes sure that my customers feel some amount of confidence trying out a new product, because eventually it's a part of a bigger product. And that bigger product is very expensive. So I do want to make my clients feel as secure in using our product as we can. And so we did all the licensing, but then we also ran a pilot program within India with a lot of companies. We gave them free samples to get a market feedback on how the product really is. And my expectations are, okay, I'm not trying to overdo anything here, but just I want to be able to replace at least what's exists in the market right now. So it's a building block. Like, you replace with what there is, and then when we offer something new, our brand's quality, which they would have experienced over time, would be like synonym to when we launch a new product in the market, that they will carry this quality forward. So hence we are more open to trying this new product. And that's the kind of brand image we wanted to build towards at the time. So we did, and my team, they always do me proud. We got like an average of 5 to 8% efficiency gain. Mind you, this is really big in our industry. About 2 to 3% efficiency gain, even in the bigger aircrafts, cause a new design to come, like a new airplane is there. And that's how radical this is, because everything's been done and dusted so many times. People have optimized every nook, every gram, every milligram in this design. So for us to be able to bring that efficiency gain meant a lot. And I think that's just what like propelled us forward. Okay, like we are ready for the next step, which is first is the propellers, then we'll do the motors. And then once we started doing the motors, we realized that there are a lot more players who do motors than they do propellers. And for as a business market, we are codependent. My success is not mine alone if I just keep selling propellers. It's only successful if there are a lot more drones out there being sold and being flown. And to me, that's the where the collaboration really exists. Like, I want our products to be reliable and give us more robust performance, and for a competitive price in the market. If I price it also too high, then it becomes out of reach for a lot of people. But I'm also like trying to match the people who are already in business of scaling, who've done their proof of concept, who are trying to build this product in a way, their products in a way, so that it can reach a bigger number of people and alleviate a lot of different problems in different people's lives. So having said that, we first started with the Indian market, and it's only been a couple of years. So I feel like the growth in the industry has been very rampant. But at the same time, the stage at what we are building, they're yet to reach. And we are here. We want to be as ready for that when they are ready. But for now, we are into exports, and we're dealing a little bit more on the global front with the Middle East and the European and the American market. So yeah, that's where this is right now.
Okay, yeah, we've talked about collaboration now. You've mentioned quality control and how important it is, and how you're so proud of your team because they absolutely ensure that there is quality control, and your facility, and how it's not just drawn parts, but because you obviously need for it to be, it can't be restricted to that because of the how rapidly it's the industry is evolving. Yeah, so
we are not just catering, like we initially started as a drone part manufacturer, but on our way, just say like 4 months into the entire setup, we realized what we are doing is catering to a bigger market than just drones. There's urban air mobility programs, there's advanced air mobility programs, The difference between the two typically comes into the amount of range and flight times both offer. One is meant for short hops, the other is meant for like intercity travel. But eventually, what I can see, the world is slowly gearing up to more greener and cleaner technologies. And that's where we also want to play a big hand wherever we can. And hence, our size range is not limited to just the small drones. I know it looks like we do parts, so it must be like the small drones. We actually do, very quickly, drones are divided up based on their weight categories very broadly. So you have under 250 grams, 250 to 2 kilograms, 2 kilograms to 25 kilograms. So we cater from 2 kilograms and upwards, which is like the small, and then 25 to 150 kgs is medium, and 150 and upwards is large. So we cater to these bigger ones where they're trying to not just optimize in terms of performance, but also in weight and volume. Aerospace is essentially, that's where it's so cool that you're not just chasing performance. You have to optimize it for every like ounce that you've put on there, for every volume unit that is on there. So to me, it's like very clever engineering put together. And so essentially, when you're doing all of these different elements, powertrain, if it is very robust, you will get the best unit economics out of your flight system. And I think that's what people genuinely really want. The user, the manufacturers, and as an OEM, our job is to deliver what we promise. And I think one of the key differentials between what has existed so far in the industry and what we bring to the table are far different from each other. And this is something I realized after we launched the product, which is really surprising because I visited expos a lot to understand what the world is doing, how they've evolved. They have like over 20, 30 years into this industry, whereas Indian industries only had a couple years. So I was like, okay, let's learn from what they have done before, and we'll incorporate that in what we want to do now. And there I really got to understand that people have gone through complete cycles of owning a drone, running a drone, using a drone. And their key insights is that it's just like an aircraft. You can buy an aircraft. When people think, even the one that I flew, it's $170,000. Some of the cars cost that much, but that's what the cost of owning a plane is. But maintaining it is a whole different world, because cost upfront is $170,000, but like maintaining is like about $10,000 a month on average if you're running it consecutively, and then a $25,000 annual cost. So within the first 2 years of owning your plane, you've spent more money than that you spent on the plane. And that similar parallel can be drawn to owning a drone. You clearly have certain parts you need to invest a little bit more in. So propellers and batteries make up a bigger chunk of it. And hence, that's why we understood that propellers had to offer not just performance, but also longevity. And that's where there were different target problems we were trying to solve. So when we sat on the board, I made our head of innovations sit together with our manufacturing. I was like, you have great designs, I get it, but he needs to execute it. So you both need to be in the same room, and we all need to talk really well to make this happen. And I think that's where we've been doing things a lot differently than the traditional route, where people only work on their design and simulations. All our products are tested in the field. We actually test out the product. All the data we've given is tested. It's not simulated or assumed or like whatever the other industrial partners have done. I understand because there are certain limitations to do it. My team was just adamant we had to test it. I was like, okay, we are not putting any data out that is not tested. So we just decided to roll with that.
So that obviously takes it because
it does.
Because you're manufacturing it, and then okay, quality control and all of that aside, It's only after you test it that you actually say, okay, now it's ready to go. So that takes time as well, and time equals money. So
Money.
yeah.
It's everybody's print, like everybody assesses manufacturing at scale and how much they can optimize by the seconds. For us, like in aerospace, if that is how we chased, I think it would be hard, but it's also something we cannot let go of. But one thing that has been very clear to me from the beginning is that it's about quality work. One propeller can take us down. So that it's our job to make sure that every step of the way we do such a rigid quality control that the previous person's job is valued to the next person. My entire team in manufacturing, like I said, they're not taught, okay, you must do it this way or this is an expensive material. They're taught like you need to do well because somebody has put more effort before you. And in order for them to feel respected, it's your job to make sure you carry out your work well. And together as a team, we'll put out a great product. And I think that's what's really built the kind of great work we are seeing today.
Good luck, and I'm so happy that we've had this conversation.
I'm really happy that we could touch base again, and it was such a nice conversation to talk to you.
Perfect. You have a wonderful rest of the day and stay in touch. And good luck again. For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.